All right, so today we're taking a bit of a different approach. A deep dive. We have this interview transcript, and
This is going to be fun.
it's with Harris from the UpCycleClub, the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So this is from this YouTube channel, the Friday Morning Nameless,
Okay.
hosted by, get this, Chad the Alcoholic.
Interesting. All right. I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I mean, just the name of the channel alone.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's fantastic.
So we're going to, take a deep dive into
Harris.
Yeah, into this interview with Harris. He's a computer scientist from Cyprus.
Oh, wow.
And
see, I love that that little biographical detail right there. I'm already hooked, because it's like, how do those two things go together? A computer scientist from Cyprus.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got this whole YouTube channel about upcycling. There's got to be a story there.
Yeah, he's got this passion for music and this fascination with these online communities. So we're going to kind of explore all these different facets of his life and how they all kind of intertwine.
It speaks to the multifaceted nature of people in general. We contain multitudes.
Exactly.
And I'm always fascinated by how those multitudes come together to create a unique individual.
And he starts with, talking about his childhood in Cyprus, like a lot of these interviews start,
Yeah.
And he talks about his family. He's got his parents, his two older sisters.
Right.
His grandfather was a blacksmith.
Wow.
He had a great aunt who was a midwife.
It sounds like a real tapestry of life experience right there.
I know, right?
You've got the blacksmith, the midwife. I mean, those are such almost archetypal professions.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, how did that shape his upbringing?
Right. And so he was diagnosed with this at a young age, Cav-Perthes leg syndrome. It's like a rare hip condition.
Okay, I've never even heard of that.
And he was basically given a choice by the doctors.
Right.
Undergo a pretty major surgery or endure months of complete immobility.
Oh, wow. What a choice, especially for a young kid.
So he chose stillness.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he spent months basically confined, watching life from the sidelines, not being able to run and play.
I can only imagine how tough that must have been for him.
And this is where, that's kind of the turning point.
Okay.
This is where his parents, wanting to keep him engaged,
Yeah.
they bring home a computer.
Oh, there it is.
And it's like, it's like that kind of moment where you can see how this one event, as challenging as it was, kind of set the stage for, becoming a computer scientist.
It's like that forced stillness. It almost forced him into this world of technology and imagination.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder how our lives might unfold differently if we're faced with those kinds of challenges and how we choose to respond.
Right. And so then he starts talking about, music.
Okay.
He's
because you mentioned he was a musician, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So he's kind of this multi-instrumentalist, and he starts off with, kind of dabbling with his sister's piano.
All right. So there's that early influence. The sister playing piano piques his interest.
Yeah, and he even tries to pick up the violin. But he talks about this really funny story.
Oh, I love a good story.
Where he goes to this elderly violin teacher.
Okay.
Who's almost 90 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she basically tells him that he doesn't have a good enough voice for violin lessons.
Wait, what you mean his singing voice?
Yeah, and he's like, but I want to play the violin, not sing.
That's hilarious. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
You have to wonder what was going through her head.
I know, right?
I mean, she only taught violin as an accompaniment to singing? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? But it's one of those little moments that, looking back on it, he sees as a kind of a blessing in disguise.
Right. Well,
because it kind of nudged him back towards the computer, which ended up, being his passion, his profession.
It's like those little nudges from the universe, They seem random at the time, but they often lead us down a path we're meant to be on.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder what would happen if he had a great voice,
Right.
Would he have just been a violinist this whole time?
Right. And then he picks up the mandolin.
Okay.
He even plays on national television.
Wow. Okay. All right. So he's got some musical chops.
Yeah, he's got it. And so then he transitions to the guitar.
All right. Classic progression.
I know, right?
A lot of guitarists I know start with, piano or something, and then they find their way to the guitar.
And then eventually finds his groove with the bass.
The bass. Okay. So he's like the foundation guy.
He's the foundation.
He's holding down the rhythm section.
And even when he was, that time when he was dealing with this, with his illness, he was kind of forced to be still, to be grounded.
Right.
And it's interesting how those themes kind of reemerge in his music.
That's fascinating. It's like he's drawn to that supportive role both in life and in music.
Right.
Like, he finds his strength in being the anchor, the
Exactly.
steady hand.
And he talks about how at 15, he had this, really diligently saved up to buy this bass guitar.
15, that's dedication right there.
I know.
That's commitment.
And he goes to this music store and, strikes this deal with the owner to pay it off in installments. And the way he was coming up with these, to make these installments, was coming up with all of these creative little business schemes. Like, he even sold game discs to his classmates.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, entrepreneurial, even back then.
Yeah.
It speaks to his character.
Right. And, this is kind of where his love of adventure games comes into play.
Okay, so we've got computers, we've got music, now we're bringing in video games.
He specifically mentions Monkey Island. I don't know if you've ever played those games.
I've heard of it. I'm not a huge gamer, but yeah.
So he loved those games, and he even talks about how he used games to teach his nephews English.
Wow, that's pretty clever. So he's finding creative solutions in all these different areas of his life.
Right. But there's also this deeper layer here, right?
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the deeper layer?
So what seems like a simple anecdote about a video game, it kind of hints at this larger theme that unfolds throughout his story.
Okay.
And it's this idea of the power of symbolism and these unexpected connections.
Interesting. Okay, so how does Monkey Island tie into all of this?
Well, Monkey Island itself, the game is filled with symbolism.
Right.
Like, there's hidden meanings, there's all these unexpected twists and turns in the storyline. And what's really interesting is that Harris later becomes super involved in this online community that's called This Little Corner, or TLC, which also uses monkey imagery. So it's almost as if this game from his childhood kind of foreshadowed his fascination with this community that really thrives on deciphering meaning.
Wow, that's interesting.
And exploring symbolism.
So you're saying, there's this thread that connects this childhood game to this later fascination with this online community.
Yeah.
It's like those two things, they seem completely unrelated on the surface, but when you dig a little deeper, there's this underlying connection.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning.
Oh boy, here we go.
So this fascination with symbolism, this search for meaning, it takes this really profound turn when he experiences this life-changing trip to Mount Athos. Have you heard of it? It's this secluded peninsula in Greece.
I've heard of it, yeah. It's known for those monasteries, right?
Exactly. It's like stepping back in time.
Yeah.
We're going to get into that right after this.
So yeah, Mount Athos, it's like, this place where ancient traditions still thrive. And Harris talks about how the monasteries just felt steeped in history.
Yeah.
Like they were whispering secrets from centuries past.
It's almost like, you can almost feel the weight of all that history, right?
Exactly.
All those lives lived, all those stories told.
And he was particularly drawn to their libraries, filled with all these dusty volumes, holding forgotten wisdom.
Oh, I can only imagine what it'd be like to browse those shelves,
Right?
Just surrounded by all of that history, that knowledge.
It's like stepping into a time capsule.
Did he mention coming across anything particularly intriguing in those libraries?
He did, actually. He talks about how he was wandering through one of the monastery libraries and he just picked up a book at random.
Okay.
And it was about symbology.
Symbology.
Remember how that word came up earlier with
Monkey Island?
Yes. Monkey Island. It's like this
It's like a little echo,
Yeah, it's like this little breadcrumb almost, like this chance encounter with this book on symbology. It almost planted a seed,
Right.
for his later fascination with deeper meaning in these online communities.
Wow, that sends chills down my spine. It's these little echoes, these whispers of connection across time and experience.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It makes you wonder about the hidden forces that are shaping our paths.
It really does. And this is where, this concept of synchronicity comes into play.
Synchronicity. Yeah, I've heard that term before, but I'm curious to hear your take on it.
Like Carl Jung said, synchronicity is the coming together of inner and outer events in a way that cannot be explained by cause and effect, yet the events are meaningfully related.
So it's like these aren't just random coincidences, right?
Right.
They're meaningful connections that even if we don't realize it at the time, they're guiding us along a certain path.
Exactly. It's like the universe is trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
If we're just paying attention to those little signs, those synchronicities.
And this theme of synchronicity, it seems to be woven throughout Harris's story.
It really is. And so, fast forward a bit.
Yeah.
We see him drawn to the works of Jonathan Pigou,
Okay.
who dives deep into symbolism and mythology.
Right. Right.
And how does he discover Pigou? Through his interest in Jordan Peterson, who he discovered through his fascination with cognitive science.
Oh, wow. So it's like this chain reaction almost.
Exactly.
Of intellectual curiosity.
It's like he's following these little threads, and they all lead to this, like, these unexpected but meaningful connections.
It's like he's following a trail of breadcrumbs, each one leading him deeper into this world of symbolism and meaning. And wasn't Peterson really into Jung?
Yeah, he was.
He's talking about synchronicity. So it's like it's all coming full circle here.
Right, like it all connects eventually. And as if that wasn't enough, right? He then discovers Paul Vanderklay.
Okay.
Another prominent figure in this world of symbolism and online discussion.
Right.
Through Karen Wong,
Okay.
who's a YouTuber who explores meaning and personal transformation.
Okay.
And these individuals, they kind of become like these entry points for him into this fascinating online world that he calls This Little Corner, or TLC for
This little
short.
corner, TLC. So it's like he's found his tribe.
He has, yeah.
A digital haven for deep thinkers, for explorers of symbolism, mythology, all things meaning.
Yeah, it's a place where he feels like he can really delve into these complex topics and connect with people who get it.
And what's so fascinating is how he kind of contrasts this online space with real-life discussions, which he often finds are kind of limited in their depth and their scope.
Right.
Whereas this little corner, he finds a space for asynchronous conversations,
right,
diverse perspectives.
Which is harder to find in real life.
Right. A level of intellectual exploration that really resonates with him.
It's a place where you can really, like, sink your teeth into these ideas.
Exactly.
And, it's in this space that he encounters a figure who makes a particular impact. And that's Grimgriz.
Grimgriz. It's such a striking name, so evocative.
Oh, it really is, right?
What is it about Grimgriz that resonated so deeply with Harris?
So Harris was really drawn to Grimgriz's unique ability to connect seemingly disparate ideas.
Okay.
To weave together threads from all these different fields and disciplines.
It's a quality he admires, and I suspect he sees her reflected in himself a little bit.
Right.
Because he's always making these connections,
Exactly.
between music and technology and symbolism.
And in fact, Harris even mentions memetics as this concept that Grimgriz explores, which is this fascinating lens through which to view this whole idea of connection and influence.
Okay, now you have to elaborate on memetics because I'm intrigued, but I need a little more context. What is it, and how does it relate to Harris's story?
So, okay, in its simplest form, memetics is the study of how ideas and behaviors spread like viruses through imitation. So think of it like this, right? Certain ideas, like catchy tunes, compelling stories, they have a way of replicating themselves, jumping from person to person, evolving and adapting as they go.
That's a powerful concept.
It is, right.
So are you suggesting that Grimgriz's ideas, his unique way of connecting the dots, had a kind of mimetic effect on Harris?
Yeah.
Influencing his own thinking and his own creative process?
Exactly. Like, Grimgriz's ideas resonated so deeply with Harris that they, in a way, they replicated and influenced his own way of thinking.
It's like those ideas found fertile ground in Harris's mind,
Exactly, yeah.
And they kind of took root and flourished. And this idea of memetics, I think, helps us understand the allure of this little corner itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a breeding ground for ideas.
Yeah.
A place where thoughts and concepts collide, combine, and spark new insights.
Yeah, it's this intellectual ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And Harris, with his analytical mind and his deep appreciation for symbolism and interconnectedness, he thrives in this kind of environment.
He does. And this is where his musical journey takes another interesting turn. Remember how his tastes evolved from metal to a more eclectic palette?
Yeah.
He mentions being exposed to Christian metal bands early on, which challenged his preconceived notions about the genre.
Right.
It speaks to his openness to exploring new sonic landscapes.
Absolutely.
Even those that might seem contradictory at first glance. And this open-mindedness paves the way for his fascination with a truly unique band, Sleep Token.
Yes. Sleep Token.
You can hear it in your voice. You're excited about this.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets really interesting, musically speaking.
So for those of us who haven't really dived into Sleep Token yet, what is it about them that's so unique? What sets them apart?
Well, They're kind of like the musical embodiment of mystery.
Yeah, okay.
Their lead singer, he always performs in a mask.
Oh, wow.
Their visuals are often very abstract, dreamlike. Their whole persona is shrouded in this enigma. It's almost as if they're intentionally playing with this idea of identity and perception.
Yeah, they're creating this air of mystique,
Right.
which, for some people that's off-putting.
Sure.
But for others, it's like, okay, I need to figure out what's going on here.
Exactly. It's like they're inviting you to dig a little deeper, to look beyond the surface.
Yeah.
And the really clever part is that this air of mystery, this deliberate obscurity, it creates a kind of filter.
A filter. Okay.
So it might actually turn some listeners away.
Sure.
But for those who are willing to engage, to lean into the unknown, it becomes this journey of discovery. It's like they're saying, if you're willing to put in the effort, you'll be rewarded with something really special.
It's like a secret club almost.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yeah. And it's so interesting because that resonates so much with what we've been talking about with Harris's story, right?
Yeah.
He's drawn to these adventure games with hidden layers. He stumbles upon this book about symbology. He finds his people in this online community that thrives on deciphering meaning. It's like he's wired to seek out the hidden depth, these underlying connections in everything he encounters.
He's a seeker.
He is. He's a seeker. And so Sleep Token's music, then, it becomes even more interesting. Because while their aesthetic might be intentionally off-putting or inaccessible to some, their sound is actually surprisingly melodic and often quite beautiful.
Okay.
They've mastered this ability to juxtapose darkness and light, beauty and unease, and it creates this really captivating tension that just pulls you in.
So they're playing with these contrasts,
They are.
these contradictions almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what did Harris think? Did he connect with their music?
He did, on a very deep level. He describes their music as hypnotic.
I like that word.
Yeah, and it's a great word to describe it. There's this really rhythmic quality to their sound, this layering of vocals and instrumentation that creates this almost trance-like effect.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Harris connects this directly to the realm of dreams, and the subconscious, which, again, brings us back to those Jungian themes that seem to permeate his whole story.
Right. Like, we often think of meaning-making as this very intellectual pursuit, right? Something that we do with our conscious minds. But what if, like Harris is suggesting here, what if it's also very deeply intertwined with our subconscious, our dreams, these deeper layers of ourselves that we don't always have access to?
It's like, music has this unique ability to kind of bypass our rational minds and tap into those deeper emotional and even spiritual realms. It's like music has its own language.
Right.
One that can communicate truths that words sometimes fail to capture.
I love that. Music as a language that speaks to the soul.
It does. And Sleep Token, with their, enigmatic persona and their ability to blend this beauty and dissonance, they're speaking that language in a really unique way.
Yeah.
And, they're kind of reflecting back to us the same question that's been at the heart of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
How do we find meaning in these unexpected places?
Right.
How do we stay open to those seemingly random encounters, those chance discoveries that might unlock something really profound within ourselves?
It's a great question to sit with, and I don't know that there is a right answer, Right.
I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all approach to finding meaning. But I do think it starts with cultivating a certain curiosity,
Absolutely.
a willingness to embrace the unknown, to trust that sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin with a single unexpected step.
Yeah, you never know where that first step is going to lead you. And, as we kind of reflect on Harris's story, I'm struck by how his journey really does reflect our own experiences as learners, as seekers of knowledge and meaning.
Yeah.
We bring our own unique backgrounds, our own passions, our own curiosities to everything we do.
We do.
And sometimes the most rewarding discoveries are those that we weren't even aware we were searching for.
Absolutely. It's about embracing those aha moments, those unexpected connections that really broaden our perspectives.
Right. And deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. So, to our listeners, as you continue to explore, as you delve into new topics, engage with different perspectives, remember to stay curious, stay open, and most importantly, trust your own intuition. You never know what hidden gems you might uncover.
Some wise words to end on.